can you hide me from my daddy? The tiny voice cut through the roar of motorcycle engines like a knife. 12 members of the Iron Serpents Motorcycle Club turned in unison, the sound of laughter and metal clattering to a halt. The garage, their fortress in the middle of rural Texas, was a place no stranger dared to enter. Yet standing in the doorway, drenched from the late-night storm, was a little girl no older than 6. She clutched a pink backpack that was nearly bigger than she was, straps slipping off her thin shoulders. It was 2 a.m. The room fell into stunned silence. Hunter Reyes Carter, the Serpent's president, a man with a scar running down his jawline and hands built for breaking bones, slowly stood up from his workbench. "What did you just say, sweetheart?" His gravelly voice was a mixture of disbelief and concern. The girl's lip trembled, but she didn't back away. "Please, can you hide me from my daddy?" The bikers exchanged glances. These were men who had stared down armed enemies, rival gangs, and cartel thugs. Yet none of them knew what to do when a child looked at them with eyes so full of terror. Reyes stepped closer, crouching down to her height. "What's your name?" She hugged the backpack tighter. "Sofia? Sofia Morales." "And where's your mama, Sofia?" Her answer was barely a whisper, but every man heard it. "Daddy made mommy go to heaven." The words slammed into the bikers like a bullet. Chains, the club's towering enforcer, cursed under his breath. Snake, with tattoos curling up his neck, looked away, his fists clenching. Even Demon, the quietest of them all, muttered a prayer under his breath. Sofia's eyes darted to the shadows of the garage, as if expecting someone to jump out. She pulled the zipper of her backpack down with trembling fingers. "Mommy told me, if anything bad happened, I should take proof. So I did." One by one, she pulled out the contents. First, a half-empty bag of crackers and a juice box, snacks for her journey. Second, a cracked cell phone with the screen spiderwebbed in pieces. Third, a kitchen knife, its blade still stained with dried blood. And finally, a small black USB stick attached to a faded Hello Kitty keychain. The air grew heavy. Reyes reached out, gently picking up the USB drive. "What's this?" Sofia's chin lifted with a kind of brave defiance no 6-year-old should have. "Evidence. Mommy said nobody believes without proof. She told me to keep this safe, even if it meant running away." The bikers went dead quiet. These were not ordinary objects. This was evidence, dangerous evidence. And this tiny girl had carried it through the storm straight into their clubhouse. Snake knelt beside Reyes, peering at the USB stick. "Boss, you know what this means, right? If her old man's mixed with the cartel like we've heard, this little thing could be the match that burns him all down." Reyes looked back at Sofia. Her eyes were tired, red-rimmed, but unwavering. "How'd you get here, sweetheart?" She sniffled and pointed toward the road. "I followed the white lines on the highway. Mommy showed me once. She said, if things got really, really bad, I should find scary people who fight monsters." Her small voice shook. "That's you, right?" The bikers froze. Men with criminal records, scars, and reputations darker than the night, being called the scary people who fight monsters by a little girl hit harder than any bullet. Reyes swallowed the lump in his throat. "Yeah, Sofia, that's us." She relaxed a little, but only for a second. Her gaze snapped to the sound of thunder outside, and she clutched her backpack tighter, as if it contained her entire world. Doc, the oldest of the crew with silver in his beard, stepped forward. "Boss, we can't keep her here. Not with what she's carrying. Her daddy's not just gonna let this slide. If that USB is what I think it is, we're looking at cartel heat coming down on us fast." Reyes straightened, his scarred face grim. "Then we'll deal with it." He looked back at Sofia. "As long as you're under this roof, nobody touches you. Understand?" For the first time, her lips curled into the faintest smile. "So you'll keep me safe?" Reyes crouched again, placing a calloused hand gently on her small shoulder. "Safe as houses, kid. You've got 12 uncles now." The garage erupted in nervous laughter, but underneath, tension buzzed like electricity. Because every man there knew, protecting this girl meant war was coming. Sofia sat down on a crate, exhaustion finally catching up to her. She nibbled on the crackers, her small legs swinging. But her eyes never left the USB stick on the table, as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Chains muttered, "Boss, you really gonna put us between the cartel and a kid?" Reyes didn't hesitate. "Damn right. She came to us. That makes her ours." The room went quiet. Then, One by one, the bikers nodded. They had faced rival gangs. They had faced law enforcement. But now, for the first time, they were about to face something bigger. Fatherhood, guardianship, and the wrath of a cartel all rolled into one. The storm raged outside, wind rattling the garage doors. But inside, a fragile peace settled as Sofia leaned against her pink backpack, eyes finally fluttering shut. Reyes stood watch, arms folded, his scarred face illuminated by the flickering garage lights. He knew tonight had changed everything. And he also knew, if Sofia's father was as dangerous as she claimed, this was only the beginning. The storm outside hadn't eased. Rain hammered the tin roof of the Iron Serpents garage like a war drum, wind howling through the cracks. Inside, the bikers sat in silence, the weight of what Sofia had just revealed heavy in the air. Her tiny frame lay curled on a makeshift bed of jackets, the pink backpack clutched to her chest like a lifeline. Reyes stood at the window, staring into the night. His gut told him trouble was coming, and soon. He'd been in this life long enough to know that when a scared child shows up at your door clutching cartel secrets, the storm outside isn't the only one you've got to worry about. And then it happened. Headlights. They cut through the sheets of rain, glowing brighter as they approached. Rey's jaw tightened as 3 black SUVs rolled into the lot, engines growling like predators circling prey. "They're here," Reyes muttered. Every man in the garage snapped to attention. Chains rose to his full towering height, cracking his knuckles. Snake slid a blade from his boot, twirling it with deadly precision. Demon's hand hovered near the shotgun propped against the wall. No words needed. Every serpent knew what this meant. The first SUV door flew open. A man stumbled out, his tie crooked, his shirt half untucked, a pistol glinting in his hand. His face was familiar, Sofia's father. His eyes were bloodshot, his steps unsteady, but his voice carried the venom of a viper. "Sofia," he roared, staggering forward into the rain. "You little brat. You stole from me. Get out here now." Behind him, the other doors opened. 2 men stepped out, cartel soldiers. They weren't drunk. They weren't sloppy. They were cold, professional, and armed to the teeth. Reyes didn't flinch. He pushed the garage doors open wider, stepping out with the full weight of the Iron Serpents at his back. "You lost, amigo," he called, his scar catching the flash of lightning. Sofia's father sneered, pointing his pistol at the garage. "Don't play games with me, Carter. My daughter's in there. She took something that belongs to us." Snake smirked, flipping his knife. "Funny. She don't look like she belongs to you anymore." The cartel men flanked her father, their hands on their weapons. One of them, tall, with a scarred lip, spoke in a low, menacing tone. "We don't care about the girl. We care about what she took. That drive contains everything. Names, accounts, shipments. You think you can hide her? Protect her? You'll all be dead before morning." Inside the garage, Sofia stirred. Her eyes opened to the sight of 12 leather-clad men forming a wall in front of her. She rubbed her eyes, then froze as she saw the figures outside. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice trembling. Rey's head tilted, his voice iron. "Sofia, stay inside. Don't move." Her father's laugh was harsh, broken. "Sofia, give it back. That little stick isn't yours. Do you know what you've done? You've ruined everything." His voice cracked into rage. "You cost me money, power." He pointed at her with shaking hands. "And your mother's life." The words were gasoline on fire. Chains roared, stepping forward, but Reyes held up a hand. His eyes locked on Sofia's father, cold and deadly. "You just confessed in front of 12 witnesses, idiot. You signed your own death warrant." The cartel soldier with the scarred lip sneered. "We're not here to chat." And then, in one sharp motion, he drew his gun. Time slowed. Reyes barked, "Wall up," and instantly, the serpents moved as one. 12 hardened bikers shifted, forming a barrier of muscle, leather, and iron around the small girl clutching her backpack. Gunfire erupted, thunder mixing with the staccato cracks of bullets. Sparks flew as rounds ricocheted off metal beams. Snake hurled his knife with lightning speed, burying it in the shoulder of one gunman. Chains charged like a freight train, slamming into the other, ripping the weapon from his grip and snapping his arm in one brutal motion. Reyes lunged at Sofia's father. The drunk man fired wildly, missing every shot as Reyes closed the distance. He slammed the pistol away, driving a fist into the man's jaw so hard it echoed like a gunshot. The fight was brutal, fast, and over in less than 2 minutes. 3 cartel men lay on the rain-slick ground, groaning and bleeding. Snake wiped his blade clean on his vest. Chains dragged one unconscious body to the side like he was hauling garbage. Ray stood over Sofia's father, boot pressed into his chest. "You come after her again, and I swear I'll bury you so deep the devil won't find you." But then something happened no one expected. Sofia stepped forward. Her small hands gripped the pistol her father had dropped. She bent down, lifted it carefully, like her mother had once taught her to handle dangerous things, and walked toward the bikers. Her eyes were glassy, but her voice was steady. "More evidence," she whispered, handing the gun to Ray's. The bikers froze. This wasn't just a scared little girl anymore. This was someone who understood. Someone who had already lived through more than any child ever should. Ray's took the gun gently, setting it aside. He crouched, looking her in the eyes. "You did good, Sofia. But listen to me. This isn't over. Your father and his friends won't stop. They'll send more. And they'll come harder next time." She nodded, gripping her backpack tighter. "Then we don't stop either." The bikers exchanged glances. A 6-year-old had just spoken words that echoed their own creed. But in the distance, faint against the thunder, came the sound of more engines. Not one, not two, several. The Serpents knew what that meant. The cartel now knew a child held the key to their entire empire. And they were coming.
Red and blue lights cut through the storm, reflecting off the wet asphalt outside the Iron Serpents garage. Police cruisers screeched to a halt, doors flying open, officers spilling out with weapons drawn. The bikers stood in silence, bloodied fists and leather jackets marked by the fight, cartel men groaning on the ground. "Drop the weapons," an officer barked. Ray's raised his hands, motioning to his brothers to do the same. He knew the drill. No sudden moves, not with a child in the middle of it all. But Sofia, clutching her backpack with white knuckles, refused to step away from the circle of bikers. When 2 officers tried to approach, Chains moved in front of her, his towering frame blocking their path. "She stays with us," he growled. One of the officers, a younger man with nervous eyes, pointed at Sofia's father, cuffed and face down on the pavement. "That man is her legal guardian. Until the court says otherwise, she's state property. Foster care until this gets sorted." The words hit harder than any bullet. Sofia's small voice cut through the chaos. "No, I'm not leaving. Not with them." Tears welled in her eyes as she pressed herself against Ray's leg. "Please, don't make me go." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. Procedure was clear, but nothing about this night was ordinary. That's when she appeared. Margaret Lane, mid-50s, sharp suit, hair pulled back tight. The kind of social worker who had seen it all and believed nothing she couldn't put in a file. She stepped out of her car, rain soaking the hem of her trench coat. Her eyes scanned the scene. The bikers, the bruised cartel men, the trembling child. "I'm Margaret Lane," she said crisply, flashing a badge. "Child Protective Services. I'll take it from here." Ray's jaw clenched. "The hell you will." "It's protocol, Mr. Carter," she replied without missing a beat. "This child cannot remain with convicted felons. She'll be placed into temporary state custody until a hearing." Sofia's scream shattered the night. "No, I won't go." She clung tighter to Ray's, shaking her head violently. "He said he'd keep me safe? You don't understand." For the first time, Margaret's composure cracked. The desperation in the little girl's voice wasn't something you could ignore. But protocol was protocol. The compromise was uneasy. Margaret became Sofia's temporary guardian, but until placement could be found, she would remain under the Iron Serpents' watch. Margaret didn't like it. The state didn't like it. But Sofia's cries made it clear. Ripping her away tonight would break her completely. The first morning at the clubhouse was chaos. Snake, who could gut a man without blinking, stood in the kitchen staring at a frying pan like it was a live grenade. "How the hell do you flip pancakes without burning them?" Chains lumbered in with his massive frame, holding a hairbrush awkwardly in one hand. Sofia sat on a stool, legs swinging, her hair wild from sleep. "I don't know how to do this," Chains admitted, voice low. "Give it here," Snake said, tossing the spatula aside. He took the brush and tried, only to get it tangled immediately. Sofia giggled for the first time in days. "Guess I'll stick to knives," Snake muttered, ears burning. By day 3, The clubhouse didn't look the same. The giant meeting table where deals had been planned now held coloring books and crayons. The fridge, once stacked with beer and leftover takeout, had juice boxes and peanut butter. Chains installed a nightlight in the corner of the garage, right next to Sofia's little bed. Demon even set up an old TV and hooked it to stream cartoons instead of surveillance footage. And every night, without fail, one of the serpents sat by her bed until she fell asleep. The first time she woke screaming, sweaty, clutching her backpack, it was Chains who got there first. He knelt by her side, his tattooed face softer than anyone thought possible. "You're safe now, little warrior. The monsters can't get you here." "But what if they come back?" she whispered. Chains tapped his chest. "Then they'll have to get through me. And sweetheart, I've been scaring monsters my whole life." Margaret Lane visited weekly, clipboard in hand, skepticism etched in every line of her face. She watched as Tank showed Sofia how to ride her bike in the empty lot, cheering when she managed to pedal without falling. She watched as Demon braided her hair before school, his hands clumsy but careful. She watched as 12 men with criminal records took turns packing her lunch, walking her to the bus, reading bedtime stories in gravelly voices that cracked on the soft parts. And slowly, she saw something she hadn't expected. The Iron Serpents weren't just guarding a child. They were becoming her family. Sofia changed too. The dark circles under her eyes faded. Her laughter returned. She drew pictures, crude crayons of motorcycles with angel wings, of 12 men standing in a circle around a small girl with a backpack. One night, Ray's found her asleep at the table, drawings scattered everywhere. He picked one up. It was him, scarred face, leather jacket, with the word Daddy written underneath in shaky letters. His chest tightened. He hadn't been called that in 20 years. But Margaret wasn't convinced. "This isn't sustainable," she told Ray's one evening, watching Sofia chase Snake's dog across the lot. "You're an outlaw motorcycle club. You live by violence. A child doesn't belong here." Ray's lit a cigarette, exhaling slowly. "Lady, look around. You see violence? Or do you see 12 men trying like hell to do better than the world expects?" Margaret hesitated. "She feels safe with us," Ray said quietly. Safe is something she's never had before. Margaret's sharp eyes softened, just for a second. Safe isn't the same as stable. "Maybe not," Ray's admitted. "But sometimes, safe is where you start." Weeks passed. The garage no longer smelled of oil and smoke alone. It smelled of pancakes, crayons, shampoo. Sofia began sleeping through the night. She stopped clutching her backpack like a shield. She laughed so hard one afternoon that Chains actually cried trying to keep up with her in a game of tag. The Iron Serpents were changing, and they all knew it. They weren't just a club anymore. They were a family. Months slipped by like miles on a highway, and the world of the Iron Serpents looked nothing like it had before. The once shadowy garage now had drawings taped to the walls, school projects scattered across the big oak table, and a little girl's laughter echoing louder than any engine roar. Sofia Morales wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving. Her grades climbed. The dark shadows under her eyes disappeared. Nightmares that once tore her awake in the middle of the night were replaced with dreams of bike rides and birthday cakes. Every man in the club had taken turns learning how to plait hair, make peanut butter sandwiches, and even help with homework. To outsiders, it looked impossible. But to the Serpents, it had become their creed. And then came the summons. The state was taking them to court. Unfit guardians, the papers read. Convicted felons. Dangerous influences on a minor. The Iron Serpents gathered around the table, the notice sitting like a loaded gun in the middle. No one said a word until Sofia walked in, pigtails bouncing, clutching her pink backpack. She stopped when she saw their grim faces. "What's wrong?" she asked, her big eyes darting from one man to the next. Ray's reached out, lifting her onto his lap. "We gotta go see a judge, little warrior. They want to know if you're better off with us, or somewhere else." Her tiny fists balled up. "I'm not going anywhere else." Her voice had steel in it, the kind that made even Chains blink back tears. The courtroom smelled of old wood and authority. The Iron Serpents, 12 hardened bikers in clean shirts and polished boots, filled the front row like a wall of defiance. Across the aisle, state attorneys shuffled papers, whispering arguments about child endangerment, an environment not suitable for a minor. Judge Patricia Williams, stern-faced and sharp-eyed, presided over the case. She had no patience for theatrics, no tolerance for excuses. But she had a reputation for cutting through lies like a blade. The state went first. These men, the attorney declared, pointing at the bikers, are criminals. Every one of them has a record. Assault, theft, drug charges. They live in a clubhouse that has been raided more times than I can count. And now they claim to be the best guardians for a little girl? Your Honor, a child needs stability, not chaos. She needs proper role models, not men who solve problems with violence. The attorney's words echoed, but when he finished, the room felt colder. The judge's gaze shifted toward Reyes. Mr. Carter, she said, do you wish to respond? Reyes stood slowly, his scar catching the courtroom light. He wasn't a man used to speeches. But tonight, he spoke like the truth itself had climbed into his throat. Your Honor, I won't stand here and pretend we're saints. Every man you see behind me has scars, some on their skin, some on their records. We've done things we ain't proud of. But when that little girl walked into our garage at 2 a.m., soaking wet, scared, holding a backpack full of proof her own daddy killed her mama, she became ours. Not by blood, by choice. And we made her a promise. Nobody, and I mean nobody, was going to hurt her again. The courtroom murmured. Margaret Lane, sitting nearby, adjusted her glasses, her usual sharp expression softening. One by one, witnesses came forward. Sofia's teacher testified. She used to sit silent in the back. Now she raises her hand. She smiles. She shares her crayons with other kids. Her doctor testified. Her health is improving. The anxiety symptoms she had are nearly gone. These men, they bring her in on time. They listen. They take notes. They're more committed than many parents I've seen. Even Margaret Lane, the social worker who once doubted them, stood to speak. At first, I thought this was impossible. A child in the custody of an outlaw club? It sounded like a disaster. But in 30 years of this work, I have never seen a child heal this quickly. Not just heal, but grow. They gave her love, protection, and a voice. Against all odds, they made a family. And then came Sofia's turn. She walked to the front clutching her pink backpack, standing on tiptoe to reach the microphone. The room seemed to shrink as her small voice filled it. Your Honor, sometimes the scariest people are the ones who protect you the most. My daddy, he was supposed to keep me safe. But he didn't. He hurt Mommy. He hurt me. And when I ran, I found them. She turned, pointing at the serpents. They may look scary, but they're my family now. They keep the monsters away. And I don't want to live anywhere else. The silence that followed was heavy. Even the state's attorney lowered his head. Judge Williams leaned forward, studying the little girl, then the bikers behind her. Her pen tapped against the bench. Finally, she spoke. This court is not blind to your past, Mr. Carter, or to the pasts of your brothers. But it is also not blind to transformation. What I see before me is not 12 criminals, but 12 men who have taken a broken child and built her a home. Evidence shows she is thriving. Evidence shows she feels safe. And evidence shows she has love. Her gavel came down with a crack that echoed like thunder. Custody granted to Hunter Carter, also known as Reyes. Case closed. The courtroom erupted. Chains let out a roar that rattled the walls. Snake hooped loud enough to startle the bailiff. Sofia launched herself into Reyes' arms, her voice ringing out clear and bright. Daddy. For the first time, Reyes' stone face cracked into a smile. He held her tight, whispering into her hair. You'll never have to run again, little warrior. Never again. Life changed after that. The Iron Serpents didn't just protect Sofia. They built something bigger. A safe place for kids like her. Children who had nowhere else to turn. They called it Little Defenders. Every Saturday, kids would gather in the garage-turned-community center, drawing, talking, learning how to be brave. Sofia, now full of life, carried her pink backpack everywhere. But it no longer held bloodstained knives or desperate evidence. Instead, it carried crayons, juice boxes, emergency contacts, and sometimes even disposable cameras she handed out to kids. In case you need to take proof, she'd say with quiet wisdom beyond her years. The Iron Serpents became legends, not because of the fights they'd won on the streets, but because of the children they protected. And every year, on the night she first walked into their garage, the Serpents threw a party. Sofia would sit on Rey's shoulders, laughter ringing out as she yelled, for family. The men would raise their glasses, not to crime or chaos, but to the little girl who changed everything. Because Sofia had proven one truth the world couldn't deny. Even the most broken men can become guardians of light. And the pink backpack, once a symbol of fear, became a banner of hope. If this story moved you, smash that subscribe button and turn on the bell, because the next story will leave you even more speechless. Comment below. Would you trust the Iron Serpents to protect you?